Have you ever made a promise you wished you could unmake? One so heavy, it follows you into every room, every dream, every quiet second you thought you were finally safe? I did. And the worst part? I made it with my best friend, the one person I trusted more than anyone else in this world. Until the day we stood on opposite sides of a courtroom. Until the day he looked me in the eyes and lied. It was late October, cold, quiet, that kind of night where even the wind feels like it's hiding something. We were driving home from a party. Nothing wild, just beers, music, and dumb stories around a campfire. My best friend, Caleb, was behind the wheel. I was in the passenger seat. We'd known each other since we were 10. If there was one person in the world I'd die for, it was him. The road twisted through the woods. No streetlights, no cameras, just asphalt, trees, and shadows. And then it happened. A flash of movement. A thud. The car jolted. Caleb slammed on the brakes. Silence. We looked at each other, our faces drained of color. I stepped out first, flashlight in hand. That's when I saw it. A boy, maybe 16, maybe 17, curled awkwardly on the side of the road, limbs twisted in a way that told me everything I didn't want to know. Dead. I remember my heart pounding so loud it drowned out the crickets. Caleb stood over me, breathing hard. "What do we do?" he asked. I didn't answer. Neither of us did, not really. We didn't call the cops. We didn't check for ID. We didn't even speak his name. We just dragged his body deeper into the woods, covered him with branches, whispered something that sounded like a prayer, and made a promise. "We never talk about this," Caleb said. "Ever." And I agreed. You don't realize how heavy silence is until you try to carry it for years. We moved on, or tried to. He went to college. I started working construction. Different paths, but we stayed in touch. Birthday texts, holiday beers. But we never spoke about that night. Not once. Until the knock on my door. It was a Tuesday morning. I had just finished making coffee when I heard the knock. 2 detectives. Plain clothes. Stern faces. They asked about Caleb. Said he'd been arrested. Suspicion of vehicular manslaughter. My stomach dropped. They had found bones. Not all of them, just enough. An old hunter's dog had dug up something in the forest. And DNA doesn't forget. Days later, I got a letter in the mail. I was being called as a witness. Not a suspect. Not a defendant. A witness. But here's the part that shattered me. Caleb had told them I wasn't there that night. That I had nothing to do with it. I should have been relieved. But something felt off. Why lie for me? But not himself. I called him. He answered. "Why'd you say I wasn't there?" I asked. Long pause. Then he said, "Because I thought you'd keep your mouth shut. Like we agreed." And just like that, the weight of the promise, the one we buried in the woods, came back with a vengeance. Couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. I kept seeing that boy's face in my dreams. The court date approached. I was torn. Do I lie on the stand? Or do I break the only promise that's ever truly mattered? The night before the trial, I stared at the subpoena until my eyes blurred. I kept thinking, if I tell the truth, I betray my best friend. But if I lie, I become something worse than a criminal. I become a coward. Tomorrow I'll raise my right hand. Tomorrow I'll look Caleb in the eyes again. And tomorrow, one of us will walk away with nothing left. Because this trial is not about guilt or innocence anymore. It's about survival. The truth doesn't set everyone free. Sometimes, it buries them. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Not physically, though the AC was blasting, but emotionally, lifeless. Like the air itself knew something terrible was about to happen. I sat in the back row, waiting for my name to be called. Caleb sat just 20 feet away, surrounded by his lawyers. He wouldn't look at me. I hadn't seen him in person since the arrest. He looked thinner, tired, but not sorry. The judge entered. The trial began. The prosecution laid out the case. Evidence from the woods, partial DNA match, fragments of fabric tied to Caleb's car. They said the victim's name out loud. Ethan Riley, 17, high school senior. disappeared on his way home from a friend's house. Hearing his name nearly broke me. I remembered the way his hand had fallen across his chest, the dirt caught in his fingernails. I remembered pretending he wasn't real. But he was. He was real. And now so was this trial. Then Caleb took the stand. I didn't expect him to testify, but he did. And what he said changed everything. He told the court that he had been drinking that night, which was true. He admitted he hit something on the road, also true. But then he said he had been alone. Alone. No passenger. No witness. No one else involved. My jaw clenched so tight I thought I'd crack a tooth. He was taking the full blame. But not to be noble. Not to protect me. No. He wanted me silent. Because if I spoke, both of us would go down. Then it was my turn. They called my name. I stood. Walked to the front. Swore the oath. And then, I looked straight at Caleb. He finally looked back. There was no fear in his eyes. No apology. Just calculation. Like he was daring me to speak. The first question came, "Where were you the night of October 21st? I paused. Everyone in the room leaned forward. Even the judge seemed to hold her breath. I opened my mouth and lied. I was home, I said. Alone. Watching TV. They asked a few more questions. I stuck to the lie. I thought it would make things easier. But as I stepped down from the stand, I felt something break inside me. Something I couldn't put back together. I had just watched my best friend lie under oath. And now I had joined him. Not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know how to stop. The trial continued. More evidence. Forensics. Arguments. Counter-arguments. But none of it felt as real as that single moment between me and Caleb on the witness stand. We had buried a secret together. But now we were both digging graves, just not for the same person. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. Not because I was afraid of being caught, but because I wasn't sure if I had just saved my friend, or become his next victim. The final day of the trial came faster than I expected. It was like watching a slow-moving train finally crash. And somehow, I was still standing on the tracks. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, family members, people who had never even met Ethan Riley, but came to witness justice or failure. I sat alone. Caleb sat beside his lawyer, looking calm. Too calm. The jury came back after only 4 hours. That's how you know a verdict is solid, when it doesn't take days. They filed into the room, every step echoing like a drumbeat in my chest. The judge asked the question, "Has the jury reached a verdict?" The foreman stood. "Yes, Your Honor." The room went silent. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Caleb Morgan." My breath caught. "Not guilty of vehicular manslaughter." Time stopped. "Not guilty." I sat there frozen. The words didn't make sense. Not guilty. They believed him. They believed the lie. Caleb turned slowly in his seat and smiled at me. Not a thank you smile. Not relief. It was smug, cold, final. That's when I knew. He hadn't just wanted me to lie to protect him. He had planned it. All of it. The moment he told the cops I wasn't there. The moment he took the stand first. He was setting the stage. And I was the fool who walked right into it. Later that night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "Told you we'd take it to the grave. Thanks for keeping your word." No name. No emojis. Just those words. I deleted the text. But I couldn't delete what came next. The nightmares. The guilt. The face of that boy, Ethan Riley, staring back at me every time I closed my eyes. The truth didn't set me free. It chained me to a lie that wasn't mine to carry anymore. Because Caleb didn't just walk away from a courtroom that day. He walked away from everything, the crime, the guilt, and me. And all I could do was watch. Because that's what happens when you make a promise with a liar. Eventually, they find a way to make you pay for keeping it. Months passed. The trial faded from headlines. People moved on. But I didn't. I kept hearing his voice in my head. That cold text message replaying like a broken record. "Thanks for keeping your word." I stopped answering calls. Stopped going to work. I was spiraling and I knew it. One night I went back to the place. The road. The woods. Where it all started. I stood in the exact spot where we had hit Ethan Riley. It was quiet now. Too quiet. I closed my eyes, and for a moment, I thought I heard his voice. Whispering. Begging. The next morning, I made a decision. I was done being silent. I went to the police and told them everything. The truth. All of it. Where we buried him. How we covered it up. What Caleb said to me after the trial. They listened. Took notes. But then they told me something I didn't expect. We know. I stared at them. What do you mean? You know? The detective opened a drawer and pulled out a file. Photos. Surveillance footage. Caleb talking to someone. A deal. Made before the trial. He gave them something. Something big. Something that made his charges go away. And in return, immunity. He had sold someone else out, some unrelated case. He played the system like a game. And he won. But there was more. The detective leaned in and said, "You're not the only one he manipulated." Turns out, I wasn't the first person Caleb had betrayed. Or the second. There was a pattern. Friends. Business partners. Even family. He used people. Broke them. Then moved on. The trial wasn't just about Ethan Riley. It was about all of us who trusted him. And now, he was gone. Vanished. Left town. New name. New life. Free. But not me. I wasn't free. I lived every day with a weight that wouldn't lift. Not because I was guilty of the crime, but because I stayed silent long enough to become part of it. They never reopened the case. Not officially. But I go to Ethan's grave sometimes. I sit there and talk to him. I tell him the truth. That I'm sorry. That I should have spoken up sooner. That I didn't deserve to walk away. And maybe one day, someone else will tell the rest of the story. Until then, this is all I have left. A broken promise. And a name I'll never speak again. What would you have done? Tell the truth? Or keep the promise?